Hello, comrades. Welcome back to Jacob's Custom Gunworks. Hey, today I got a tabletop for you. I have three different firearms on the table. I have the Ruger LCP Max, I have the Glock 42, and then I have the new Smith & Wesson Bodyguard 2.0, all in 380 auto. This is a quick review of what I like, what I don't like, and some of my range experiences with each firearm. The top two were provided me today for this review, so I'd like to give a shout out to the individuals that did that. Thank you very much. Without further ado, let's move on. Go ahead and start with the Ruger LCP Max. Every single one of these firearms has been cleared prior to filming this video. Full disclaimer. So, moving on. Ruger LCP Max. This is a neat gun. It's two-tone finish, so we've got a stainless steel slide and kind of a stainless trigger and a black polymer frame. Neat thing about this is a 75th anniversary edition. Pretty neat to see. One of the things I don't like about this gun, go ahead and show you. Do our quick slide release test. One-handed, no problem. A little stiff, but not bad. I don't know how many rounds have gone through this gun, but works pretty well. Here's one of the quirky things I don't like. Hear that? Yeah, a little rattly, isn't it? So apparently, all of the Ruger LCP Max firearms that I have had any experience with, they all have that little quirk. Doesn't seem to affect accuracy or function at all. It just doesn't sound all that great. I did notice when you pull the trigger or put a magazine in the firearm, it does quiet it up quite a bit, or when there's a round in the chamber. So, yeah, something they could work on. As far as the sights go, we have a generous U-notch rear sight, followed by a tritium front sight with a white outline. Kind of neat. I like 3 dots, but it's not unbearable. Trigger pull, you have quite a bit of a wall. You get to the wall, and then, or you get right to the wall there. Go ahead and pull, and it's fairly long. It doesn't actually break until you get right about to your trigger stop point. Once you get there, it breaks fairly clean. Not great, but for a gun that runs you about $300, it's about what you expect. And as I mentioned before, you can see that it's not as rattly. Magazine-wise, so this particular gun is a 10-round gun. I believe they have 10 rounds magazines, and 12-round magazines, or a 10-round plus a 2-round extension that you can get. Go ahead and put this in the firearm. And then grip-wise, you can see, again, I say this in all my videos, I don't have giant hands, but my hand gets around this gun just fine. So, just something to keep in mind. Recoil-wise, at the range when I fired this, it definitely was there, but since then the springs have been upgraded. So the second time I went out, we have a new recoil spring and a firing pin spring installed. And that did make a drastic difference. I believe they're 2 pounds over factory, and I think they came from M Carbo, is where this individual found those. So did help. So just so you know, there is some aftermarket support for the Ruger LCP Max, which does help. Moving on to the Glock 42. Aftermarket support for Glocks, there's a ton of aftermarket support and current market support for the Glock. This particular 42 does have a few goodies on it. Does have the Streamlight TLR6 flashlight on it. I prefer a flashlight over a laser. This is my opinion. I think a laser is a very good psychological deterrent, but a flashlight for me would be a more useful tool. So I would agree flashlight is better, but everybody's different. To each their own. This does have a Hogue slip-on grip on it, which is kind of nice. Get my hand on there pretty good. And then for as sights, we do have the aftermarket. These are True Glow sights, or excuse me, Ameriglow sights with a tritium front and an orange outline, and then just the standard black tritium rears. I do like that over the Glock sights. I can't stand them, but again, personal opinion. Far as slide release test one-handed, yep, no problem. Much better than the Ruger. I don't know how many rounds have been through either of these guns, but this is definitely easier, even without the extension. I like that quite a bit. Flashlight, there we go, pretty bright. I believe these are 100 lumens. I do like that. One of the things I did notice with this particular flashlight is I had to bend in the tab a little bit for it to hook on. When I was shooting, I actually had the batteries fall out, so hopefully that's fixed. When I went and shot another couple of magazines, it wasn't nearly as bad. Streamlight, Smith & Wesson, Viridian, or Crimson Trace. If you're listening to this video, please look at making a flashlight laser attachment for the new 2.0. That is about the only thing that I'm really waiting on. Full disclosure. Other than that, we'll go ahead and move on. Magazine-wise, again, we're back to a single stack. This gun is a single stack gun versus a double stack of the other two. I believe this has got a +1 in it, so this is 7 rounds versus 6. But again, for the grip test, smaller than the Ruger, but not by much. My hand can get around it just fine. There's a ton of aftermarket support out here with different magazines that you can get. So I think there's a 15-round one, and there may even be drums, which is kind of ridiculous in a gun this size. But hey, do what you want to do. As far as the trigger is concerned, not quite as far of a wall or far of a point to get to the wall. Once you get to the wall, it breaks clean like you would expect a Glock to. Probably looking at 4.5 pounds compared to 5.5 pounds of the Ruger. Definitely a better feeling trigger. It's a Glock. I'm not a huge Glock fan, but I do like the gun. Moving on. Smith & Wesson Bodyguard 2.0. The first generation of these was horrendous. This is a vast improvement over the original. Slide release test, one-handed. Yep, no problem. Recoil-wise at the range when I shot this, this is the best of the three, even with the upgraded springs of the Ruger. This is very fun to shoot, very mild recoil. The Glock isn't too bad either, just because it's a little heavier framed gun, but this was of the best of them, all of them. The other thing that I got asked was, how hard is it to actuate your safety? As you can see, one-handed, not at all. Brand new out of the box, these are horrendous. So my advice to anybody who's watching this video, take your gun out, work the safety like this about 15 times, 15 clicks, once per day for about a week, and it should break it in tremendously. Sights. We have a Teridium front sight and a very similar U-notch rear sight, just like the Ruger. Wish it was 3-dot, but this is very workable, and I didn't have any problem with target acquisition in this firearm. Trigger pull, about the same wall, a little bit more maybe than the Glock, but once you get there, a lot cleaner break. This didn't feel like I needed to take as much trigger, so maybe 4 to 3.5 pounds of felt trigger pull on my end. Not bad at all. I decided to grab both of these magazines so we could grab the grip test. This is the 10-round one that was included with my firearm. It's going to be very similar to the other two. It's a little bit bigger, but I can get all my hand around it. Guys with bigger hands, that could be an issue. So, our solution is this 12-round one here. So, grip test with it. Much nicer. Guys with bigger hands generally don't have a problem getting on this firearm as they do with some of the other ones. Again, if I was going to buy any of these firearms you see, I would probably buy the Smith. I've said it before, it's become one of my favorite firearms in my little bag of tools. That being said, I think this video's dragged on long enough. Thank you for watching. Until next time, comrades.